Trauma isn't a problem to be solved with logic or willpower. It's not a mental puzzle your mind can untangle or a memory you can simply forget. Instead, trauma is stored deep within your body and emotions, a visceral imprint of pain, fear, and survival that often bypasses conscious thought altogether. When you try to think your way out of trauma, you get stuck in endless cycles of analysis, avoidance, or numbness. The mind alone can't process what the body has held on to for so long. This mental looping creates distance from your true experience, keeping you trapped rather than free. Real healing calls for something deeper. It requires you to feel your trauma fully, safely, and without judgment. It's a courageous journey into the very pain you've been protecting yourself from. Let's explore why embracing feeling is the path out of trauma and how you can begin to walk that path with compassion and strength. Before we dive in, what you'll hear today is meant to guide and inform, but it's not medical advice. If something resonates deeply or stirs something difficult, I encourage you to speak to a licensed mental health professional. Trauma isn't confined to your thoughts or memories, it lives in your body. When your nervous system experiences overwhelming stress or danger, it doesn't just register an event intellectually. It encodes that experience deep into your muscles, your autonomic nervous system, and unconscious patterns of movement and feeling. These neurological imprints are often invisible to the conscious mind, but profoundly shape how you live and react. This is why trauma feels so persistent and difficult to shake. Cognitive understanding, reading about trauma, analyzing your past, or even making sense of what happened can be helpful, but it rarely dissolves the embodied residue of trauma. Your body remembers in ways your brain cannot always articulate. It holds on to tension, constriction, and defense mechanisms that developed as survival strategies. Symptoms like anxiety, hypervigilance, emotional numbness, or sudden, intense emotional reactions are often signs that trauma is still trapped in your body. These aren't merely psychological issues. They are physical sensations and reactions signaling unresolved trauma. Your nervous system remains stuck in a state of alert or shutdown, responding to the past as if it were happening in the present. For example, you might feel a tightness in your chest or stomach that flares without clear cause, or an urge to flee or freeze that emerges unexpectedly. These sensations are echoes of your body's attempts to survive overwhelming moments, now locked into patterns that disrupt your everyday life. Traditional talk therapy alone may not access these deep, nonverbal layers. Healing trauma means reconnecting with your body in compassionate, grounded ways. It requires practices that help release tension and trapped sensations, like somatic therapy, breath work, movement, or mindfulness. These methods engage the body's natural capacity to complete what was interrupted in the traumatic event, allowing energy to flow freely again. This process is not about reliving trauma as a replay of pain, but about feeling in a new, safe context what was once unbearable. It creates new neurological pathways, rewiring the nervous system toward regulation and safety rather than survival mode. Over time, this can reduce symptoms and bring a profound sense of integration between mind and body. It's important to approach this healing with patience and care. The body will only release what it feels safe to release. Pushing too hard or too fast can re-traumatize rather than heal. A compassionate, attuned presence, whether from a therapist, a trusted guide, or your own mindful attention, creates the conditions for true release. Recognizing trauma as an embodied experience shifts your healing focus. It invites you to listen closely to your body's messages and respond with kindness and curiosity. This embodied approach opens the door to deep transformation, offering a path beyond cognitive understanding into full somatic healing. One of the biggest reasons people avoid feeling their emotions, especially after trauma, is the fear of being overwhelmed, the sensation of drowning in pain, anxiety, or distress. This fear is understandable. Trauma often conditions the nervous system to respond to strong emotions as threats, triggering fight, flight, or freeze reactions. So when intense feelings arise, the mind and body can feel flooded, leading to a natural impulse to shut down or escape. However, feeling doesn't have to mean losing control or being swept away by a tidal wave of emotion. Trauma-informed approaches teach that it is possible to access your feelings without flooding. This means learning to open to emotions in a paced and regulated way, where the nervous system stays within its window of tolerance, a zone where distress is manageable and healing can happen safely. The key lies in nervous system regulation. Techniques such as grounding practices help bring your attention back to the present moment and your physical body, providing a sense of safety and containment. Simple grounding exercises like feeling your feet on the floor, noticing your breath, or describing your environment anchor you in the here and now, reducing the risk of emotional overwhelm. Mindfulness is another essential tool. It cultivates a non-judgmental awareness of your inner experience, inviting you to observe emotions as passing phenomena rather than threats. This mindful stance allows you to hold emotional discomfort with curiosity and acceptance, rather than resistance or fear, which reduces the intensity of feeling and fosters resilience. Somatic experiencing and body-based therapies deepen this process by tuning into the physical sensations associated with emotions. Instead of avoiding what the body signals, these approaches encourage gentle attention to the subtle shifts in sensation and energy. This attuned presence helps the nervous system discharge stuck trauma energy in small, safe increments, preventing flooding. Feeling becomes a skill rather than an accident. Like any skill, it requires patience, practice, and guidance. You build capacity to tolerate and process emotions gradually, expanding your window of tolerance over time. Each successful experience of feeling without flooding strengthens your nervous system and your confidence in managing emotional pain. It's important to recognize that feeling fully does not mean wallowing or being passive in distress. It's an active engagement with your experience, balanced by self-care and pacing. Learning this balance is what differentiates healing from re-traumatization. You are training yourself to hold your emotional life with steady hands, rather than trembling in its storms. Ask yourself, how do you currently experience strong emotions? Do you find yourself avoiding them out of fear or getting overwhelmed when you try to face them? What small steps could you take to practice feeling in a paced, grounded way? Developing this skill unlocks the path to deeper healing and freedom beyond trauma's grip. When trauma lives in the body and emotions, trying to process it solely through the intellect creates a trap. Intellectualization, an attempt to understand, analyze, or rationalize your trauma without feeling it, can become a defense mechanism. It feels safer to dissect the experience from a distance than to face the raw, messy emotions beneath. But this mental detachment, while protective at first, ultimately keeps trauma alive and unresolved. Suppression is another common response. Instead of allowing feelings to surface, you might push them down or distract yourself with endless thinking, work, or external busyness. Suppression numbs the emotional pain temporarily, but it doesn't erase it. Like water trapped behind a dam, these unprocessed emotions create pressure that can manifest as anxiety, depression, or physical symptoms over time. When you intellectualize or suppress, you fragment your experience. You split off from parts of yourself, the emotional and bodily responses that need acknowledgement. This disconnection interrupts the natural process of healing, which depends on integrating mind, body, and feelings into a cohesive whole. Without integration, trauma remains lodged in the nervous system, ready to trigger distress even decades later. The first step toward healing is to name this pattern honestly. I'm stuck in my head, avoiding my feelings. Awareness brings power. By identifying when you're intellectualizing or suppressing, you open the door to change. This self-recognition is a courageous act, a refusal to remain trapped in mental avoidance any longer. Interrupting this habit requires patience and compassion. It's not about harshly judging yourself for avoiding pain, but gently noticing when you're retreating into thinking and inviting your feelings forward instead. Small, deliberate acts, pausing during overwhelming thoughts, checking in with your body, or practicing brief emotional check-ins can begin to break this cycle. Integration happens when you gradually bring your feelings into conscious awareness alongside your thoughts. You allow the mind to listen to the body's messages instead of overriding them. This process strengthens your capacity to tolerate distress, build emotional resilience, and rewrite the trauma narrative with more wholeness and presence. Remember, intellectualizing and suppressing were once survival tools. They kept you safe when the pain was too great. Now, in the context of healing, they are obstacles to freedom. The courage to move beyond them is a turning point, a shift from surviving trauma to reclaiming your life. Emotional processing after trauma is not about forcing yourself to feel every painful sensation all at once. It's about creating safe containers where feelings can arise, be witnessed, and move through you without overwhelm. Safety is the foundation of healing. When your nervous system feels secure, it can begin to loosen the tight grip trauma holds on your body and mind. Supportive therapy plays a crucial role in building this safety. Therapists trained in trauma-informed approaches provide a compassionate, steady presence that allows you to explore your feelings at a pace you can tolerate. This therapeutic container offers validation and structure, so you don't have to face the raw edges of trauma alone or unprepared. Body-based practices like EMDR, yoga, or breath work engage the nervous system directly, helping you release trauma held in physical sensations. These modalities don't rely solely on verbal processing. They work with the body's innate capacity to heal itself, fostering regulation and grounding as you move through stored emotional energy. Trusted relationships beyond therapy, friends, family, support groups also serve as safe spaces for emotional processing. Simply having someone who listens without judgment, who holds space for your experience, can make a profound difference. Connection reinforces your nervous system's sense of safety and counters isolation, which often exacerbates trauma symptoms. The goal of emotional processing is not to get stuck in feelings or let them overwhelm you, but to experience them fully and then let them move through you. This fluid movement contrasts with trauma's tendency to make emotions freeze or explode. When feelings flow naturally, the nervous system can reset and return to balance. This process rewires your nervous system. As you consistently practice safe emotional processing, the brain relearns that these feelings are not threats, but signals that can be tolerated and integrated. Over time, this shifts the nervous system out of survival mode and into a state of regulation and presence. Restoring agency is another essential aspect. Trauma often leaves you feeling powerless and disconnected from your body and emotions. Safe emotional processing helps reclaim control, not by suppressing pain, but by choosing when and how to engage with it. This empowerment fosters resilience and confidence in your capacity to face life's challenges. Reflect for a moment. Where in your healing journey do you feel safe enough to explore difficult feelings? What might you need to create or strengthen that safety? Whether it's professional support, a healing practice, or a trusted connection, building this bridge of safety is your pathway from survival toward true healing. You cannot think your way out of trauma. No amount of analysis or intellectual understanding alone will unlock the wounds held deep within your body and emotions. True freedom begins with feeling fully, safely, and without judgment. This path is not easy. It requires courage to face what you've long avoided, patience to allow healing to unfold in its own time, and support to hold you steady when the process feels overwhelming. But through feeling, you reclaim not just your emotions, but your body, your mind, and ultimately your life. The journey from surviving trauma to truly thriving does not start with fixing your mind. It starts with reconnecting to your whole self. When you embrace this, healing is no longer a distant hope, but a tangible, living reality.